Okay, hey everyone. Good evening. It's your Project Offbeat podcast. It's the show where we talk to the most offbeaten careers out there. The careers, that aren't your usual corporate path, especially dito sa Philippines, no? Matt, how are you doing, bro? I think this is our first shoot for the week, no? Kamusta ka?
Well, Happy New Year to you, Lance.
Oo nga pala. Happy New Year. Man, the days are flying that I don't even know that it's already January, Today, marami na tayong naging episodes, right? We've talked to a columnist before. We've talked to a sports journalist before. We've talked to even
We
a
have, yeah.
newscaster before, right? Pero we want to stick to that space today. We're talking about something that a person that tells story, a person that does documentaries, no, into that space of journalism, right? Today, Matt, medyo mas special lang, medyo mas niche pa tayo in that space that we're talking about investigative journalism. Okay, medyo deep, right? What is investigative journalism? That's the person that we want to onboard today to talk to us about that career, diba? So it's journalism is such a tough job, right? Even more
It
kapag
is.
nag-investigate ka ng mga tao, ng mga kumpanya, right? You're risking your life, right? So it's gonna be an exciting show today.
Our guest today is the host of GMA's most awarded documentary program, Eyewitness, established since 1999 pa. He's regarded as one of our country's most respected and awarded journalists, especially through his contributions in the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, PCIJ, a nonprofit media organization specializing in investigative journalism. He's made news and has inspired a lot of people with his documentaries, especially yung recent one, which is Ako si Patient 2828, a documentary dealing with a patient's life and point of view at the peak of the global pandemic crisis last 2020.
Matt, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to our audience, no, the very great, the veteran journalist, Mr. Howie Severino. He joins the Project Offbeat podcast today to talk about the career of being an investigative journalist. Sir, welcome to the show. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, salamat. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me, Matt, Lance, no? Magandang gabi yan. Happy New Year sa inyo.
Happy
And
New Year, sir. Happy New Year, sir. It's a dream come true, sir, seeing you right now. Nakita ko na ikaw sa TV, sir. Nakita ko na ikaw sa Facebook. But now being with you in this call, being with you in this shoot, sir, it's a dream come true for a lot of us, sir.
well,
Being
thank you.
here with
Thank you.
you.
Yeah, I'm very honored to be here, guys. Salamat.
Okay. Sige, sir. I guess, I've always wondered, sir, ang tagal mo lang sa TV, pero last 2019 ata or 2020, we heard about the Howie Severino podcast, no? I guess, can you share to us, sir, bakit ka pumasok sa podcasting like the rest of us?
Well, I needed to do something during the
Oh,
pandemic lockdown, no? I've been doing documentaries on television for more than 20 years, no?
wow.
And a big part of documentary production is traveling, no, going out to the field. It's very physical, no. You interact with
Yeah.
people face to face. We're on the road a lot. We fly, we take boats. We're traveling. It's a journey. For every story, no, we take journeys, no. And when the pandemic locked us down, like much of the world, no, it was very difficult to do documentaries. I'm not saying it was impossible, no, because we were doing interviews on
Yeah.
Zoom, diba, online, and we're still trying to produce, but of course it wasn't the same, and uh, we weren't doing it as frequently, so we still wanted to be productive. We still wanted
Yeah.
to find new information and communicate it to the public. We didn't want the pandemic to stop us. So yung podcast was a way of doing this, no? So
Yeah.
alam ko parang naging bandwagon na tong podcasting, no? Pero it's very
Yep.
practical. I mean, it's very practical dahil pwede tayong mag-usap kahit magkalayo tayo, no? I mean, in previous eras, you really had to be face to face.
Yeah.
It was not really kind of in the realm of imagination to be doing what we're doing now, but just regularly having these conversations for broadcast, no,
Yep.
online this way. But the pandemic in a way enlightened all of us, so we can be productive while still being locked down. Of course, we're no longer locked down, but I think all of us have seen the advantages of this
Yeah.
platform,
Yep.
and so many of us have continued doing it. And yun lang. I mean, it's just another medium for me. I
Yeah.
started in the analog age before the internet. I started my career as a full-time journalist in 1988. No, so
Yeah.
before any of you were born, you and your generation. No,
Yep.
I was around your age in 1988 in the 80s. No, and I was still working on a newspaper. Calling in my stories. From that, I my career has spanned all of these technologies from print media all the way to what we're doing today. So to me,
Yeah.
it's just a new medium. It's just an additional medium for what I do.
Yeah. I think, Sir Howie, no, no matter what medium you are, ang napapansin ko na nagsistick sa inyo, sir, is that aspect of investigative journalism, no? Sir, there's probably a lot of our audience does not know what that is, no? It's a lot, no? It's a big word, no? What does it really mean to do investigative journalism, sir? Kasi hindi ba journalism in itself, you do research, 'di ba? You talk to a lot of people, right? What makes it different if you're investigating a specific topic or a genre?
Well, tama ka, no? In a way, investigative journalism is a redundancy. Kasi all of journalism should be investigative.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, what passes for a lot of journalism these days is less than investigative, meaning kulang sa research, kulang sa points of view,
Yeah.
kulang sa depth, no? So all of those are implied, no, when you say investigative journalism. So I mean, the word investigate naman, it's just research,
Yeah.
a deep kind of inquiry and pursuit of facts. But siguro when you apply the word to journalism, no, you have a particular subject that you're
Yeah.
investigating, and usually what you're investigating are people in power, institutions that have power, and you are trying to hold them to account, no, trying to make them accountable by number one, making sure that they're complying with standards and the laws and with what is ethical, and which could include uncovering wrongdoing. And you're
Yeah.
doing this on behalf of the public, for the public, and in the public interest. No, so another way of putting it, as one colleague put it, no, it investigative journalism is the journalism of outrage. No, we're just
Okay. Okay.
outraged. We're just outraged by certain things that are happening in society. Injustice, lying,
Yeah.
corruption, etc. And we're driven by outrage without showing it, diba? Without
Yeah.
showing that emotion on our sleeves. No, so a motivation natin is kasi if you're not motivated to do this, it's very difficult to do it. You probably won't do it.
Exactly.
Ano yung motivation mo? Well, one, you want to serve the public, but very often, a lot of journalists who pursue investigative journalism are mad. We're mad at the wrongs that are being done to the public,
Mm.
to society, to the marginalized, to the poor, to the weak, etc. No,
Yeah.
so journalists historically have been on the side of the weak, the afflicted, no? May kasabihan
Yes.
nga ang
Yes.
trabaho namin is to comfort the afflicted and afflict
Yeah.
the comfortable, no? So
Yeah.
Sir, I think I read somewhere that like I think when you were age 10 years old or something, that you've always wanted to be a journalist. Tama ba yun?
Well, yeah, well, I entertained
Wow.
other professions, no? But certainly, alam mo, grade 5 kasi, sumali na ako sa school publication eh, sa class. Alam mo, sa grade school naman, wala naman talagang campus publication. But in my writing class or language class in grade 5, one of our class assignments and projects was to create a class newspaper. I'm sure marami sa
Mhm.
inyong
Mm, mm.
sa audience
Yeah.
natin na dumaan sa ganyang klaseng exercise, no? I was one of those kids who kind of took it seriously. No, I mean, I I took the writing and research seriously, and I discovered that I liked it. No,
Yeah.
that's what school is for, diba? You try a lot of things and you see what you're good at. Some people discover they're really good at math, or they really enjoy art or science. And ako, I discovered I enjoyed writing, reading, talking to people, researching, and writing about what I researched and learned. Ganun lang
Yeah.
kasimple yon. And I never lost that the love for doing all of that. No, and all of those combined make for a can make for a pretty successful journalism career.
I guess in continuation to my question, no, did you ever think you'd be into investigative journalism? As in, as you said, nga, this is the journalism that you know holds accountable those in power. Did your parents kind of dissuade you from
Hindi ka
doing
naman
this,
natakot, sir?
or you know, because
No,
there's so
no.
many forces that can prevent you from telling the truth,
Exactly.
diba? So
Exactly.
ayun.
First of all, I've done a lot of different kinds of journalism. No, I was also a news anchor for a while, for 8 years actually. I also do documentaries, which is not all investigative. Sometimes, I'll just do a travel log, but very often there's an investigative angle, an analytical angle, explanatory angle. Investigative journalism, yes, there are risks, no, but it's needed. And one of my motivations actually in becoming a journalist is I wanted to be of service, diba? And I don't think a journalist can be of service unless he digs deep. Because if you're
Mhm.
just repeating what people in power are telling you, you're just propagandist, or you're just parroting, di ba? So kailangan bine-verify din yung sinasabi ng mga nasa kapangyarihan sa iyo, no? So even that simple act, no, of verification is investigative, no? Because
Mm.
it's very easy, and it happens a lot, no, for you to just repeat what's told to you, but for you to maintain a skeptical attitude and question what people tell you, and you do not assume that it is gospel truth,
Yeah.
and you make an effort to verify what people are telling you about important issues, investigative na yun eh. Di ba?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's what all
Sure.
journalists should be doing. So
Yeah.
I don't think investigative journalism is necessarily a niche for
Right.
unusually brave people. I think investigation is something that all journalists should do, and they should all be
Yeah.
trained in it.
Sir, right now, we're almost 10 minutes in, pero parang naramdaman ko in everything that you said, sir, there's that sense of, sir, how we, alam mo yun, parang once, justice, once, something to fight for, right?
Mm.
Has, ever since bata ka ba, sir, ganyan ka na, right? Because, I mean, me and Matt, parang we're living life, trying to earn funds and, maybe retire early, that's our disposition. Pero
Yeah,
sa
yeah,
inyo, sir, you're out there, you said you need the poor needs the voice,
yeah.
that is to be amplified,
Uh,
ever since ba sir ganyan ka na mag-isip, it's such a
Hindi,
brave thing to think about.
hindi. To be honest, in the beginning, when I first entertained the notion of becoming a journalist when I was very young,
Yeah.
I just wanted to have an interesting life. I wanted to have,
Oh.
I wanted to be able to
Oh.
travel and
Yeah.
experience things and meet interesting people. I just wanted to have an interesting life. But in high school, I went to Ateneo High School, no, and
Okay. Okay.
yeah, one of the requirements before you graduate in fourth year back then, well, before K to 12, no, at fourth year high school was we had to uh, become tutors to grade 6
Mm.
students, aspiring
Okay.
Mm.
high
Okay.
school students who were in grade 6.
Mm.
We had to tutor them in certain subjects. No,
Mhm.
grade six students in public schools. So they were in a different income class. They were in a different economic class. No, and many of us in Ateneo High School were very sheltered. No, we were sheltered. We had a very nice campus, very insulated. Many of us
Yeah.
were driven to school every day,
Huh. Yeah, elitista, no?
and yeah, elitista talaga, no. But we didn't really think of ourselves that way. That was just normal. That was the
Yeah.
normal way of living, 'di ba? Yung pagandahan ng sapatos, and you go to
Hanggang
parties
ngayon.
with yeah, to go to parties with girls' schools. But then um this requirement of teaching in public schools,
Yeah.
and part of it was you had to visit the school, then we had to visit the homes of our students who were in public schools, and of course they were living in very different kind of
Yes.
community, no.
Yes.
Well, it opened my eyes, no, and that was the purpose. That was the purpose of that. I mean, I don't know how much it affected my classmates, but it certainly affected me. It widened my world. It
Mm.
didn't make me a flaming radical or anything, diba? Or it didn't even turn me into an activist, but it made my world larger, no.
Yeah.
So and also gave me the idea that um I could be of service.
Yeah.
Kasi naisip ko at
Yun lang.
17, 18 years old,
Mm.
I was already teaching. I was tutoring. Yeah, I'm probably was not a great tutor, but I was able
Mm.
to do it, and I felt that I was doing a service to these kids. But I realized later on that they were actually teaching me more than I was teaching them. Akala ko nagtuturo lang ako ng English. But being
Yeah.
exposed to those kids and doing this kind of program, as a 17-year-old in high school, actually taught me a lot, no. And
Yeah.
it was one of the most important parts of my education.
Yeah. I mean, sir, parang alam mo yun, yung graduate din kami sa Ateneo, me and Matt were all, I think we graduated 3-4 years ago. We were also very idealistic in a sense that we want to be meant for others, no, sir?
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard of that, diba? But
of course, yeah,
reality,
yeah. AMDG, di ba?
AMDG, right? But then
Uh,
reality, kind of sunk in with us na parang it won't pay the bills,
mm,
right? Parang, being helping others, it might you might even have to pay more than you earn, 'di ba? So siguro ang question ko dito, sir, parang choosing that path, 'di ba? I bet it's been a challenge, right? Even the media journalism space, I'm not sure if you agree here, sir. Medyo underpaid din tong industriya na to, right?
mm,
How were you able to, stick to your core, stick to what you believe in this career?
mm. Well, I've also had a pretty simple lifestyle, no.
Yeah.
I was very realistic and practical. Na ako talaga, I really decided whatever I was going to do, I wanted to um, enter a career that where I could be of service. But it was not a vow of poverty, di ba? I mean, I don't think service necessarily goes with poverty. But very often it does, no? I mean, mga atinista kayo, yung mga Jesuita na mga teacher natin, they were not. I don't think they were poor, di ba?
Yeah.
The Jesuit priests who live on campus in the Jesuit residence, or the ones who live elsewhere, they drive cars, no. They live a pretty comfortable life, no. So, and they're of service. That's number one, no. It doesn't mean a vow of poverty. I mean, I've been able to pay the bills, huh? I mean,
Yeah.
let's I want to dispel the any illusion that I'm living a life of poverty. That I'm far from it, actually. I mean, after a 30-year career, I mean, I became a vice president of our company, of GMA Network, and I started as a journalist. So I worked my way up. But number two, no matter where you are, no matter what kind of job you have, I mean, you say you're in the corporate world, you can still be of service. You can be of
Yeah.
service. Um, I see this all the time, 'di ba? Professionals, accomplished professionals taking time off from work to volunteer to help
Yeah.
in relief after disasters, um, or they're just being of service to their families when they're needed, 'di ba? Stepping up as a leader in an emergency. I mean, there's so many situations, no?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your career, 'di ba? Helping the poor or the marginalized, no? But sometimes communicating the right thing to the public. We all have access to the public. I mean, you guys do. I mean, when I was your age, there was no internet, or nagsisimula pa lang, no? So I had very little access on my own to the
Yeah.
public. I had to go through a media company to
Yeah.
reach the public. But you guys can communicate directly to your
Yeah.
own audience, no?
Yeah.
And you could be of service doing that. And I'm presuming that's part of your motivation in doing this podcast. I mean, I don't know. Are you guys making money? I mean, you're not paying me to do this, so maybe you're not making
Yeah.
money. I don't know. Or if you are, maybe you should be paying me, right? But I'm
Yeah.
presuming this is all gratis, diba? So why are you guys
Yeah.
doing this at like 9 o'clock at night, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's maybe you're doing it for fun. I don't know. It's not the normal corporate thing to do. So I'm presuming there's some form of service in what you're doing, diba? You're trying to inform your peers about
Yeah.
offbeat careers, trying to open their minds in this way. So just going back to my original point that you could be of service in wherever you are and whatever you're
Yeah.
doing. So we don't have to limit our definition of a life
Ganda.
of service.
Woo.
Ganda, ganda. Sir Howie, I guess, based on your, 30 years of experience in this industry and all the stories that you've been telling the public, the media, and whatnot, what do you feel are the stories that, that people enjoy the most? Yung the type of stories that most Filipino viewers would
Yeah.
enjoy and like best, no?
Krimen ba lagi, sir?
Uh,
Krimen
well,
ba?
well, okay. I don't know. Well, I don't know what you mean by enjoy. No, I mean, well, some people do enjoy watching crime stories. They get this
Exactly.
visceral satisfaction that it's not happening to them, right? But well, you mentioned earlier, no, na ginawa kong storya yung pagka-COVID ko. I was one of the earliest COVID patients,
Yes.
no, in the
Yes.
Philippines. This is in March 2020, no, and when the COVID was still very new, the pandemic was just declared, the lockdown was just imposed, so everything was very new, and there was a lot of paranoia, even hysteria about COVID,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a lot of the news about people getting COVID was people dying of COVID. So ang daming natatakot, no. So I felt that as a journalist who was also a patient, I had an obligation to tell that story, to tell the
Yeah.
story of what it was like to have COVID at that time. I knew that it could have some value, and yeah, sure enough, it was one of the most widely viewed
Exactly.
documentaries, not just of eyewitness, but I think in the Philippines in history. I mean,
No,
that's not to
tama.
brag. It's just or to flex, but it just reflected the reality at that time when there was a lot of um, curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yeah.
curiosity was not a kind of you know um, a curiosity about something that was shallow, like a trend or a fashion, no, or a celebrity. It was curiosity
Right.
about something that could affect you, that could kill you. No,
Yes. Yes.
Right.
and there was a huge gap of information. There was a vacuum of information, and I was put in the unique position of being able to fill that vacuum through my own experience. No,
Yes.
so in a way, it was accidental that I was in that position, but it was my choice
Yeah.
to produce a story based on that, and I felt that because it was widely watched, that it did satisfy some people's curiosity about the disease without necessarily answering a lot of questions. I think the basic question that my story answered back then was it possible to survive COVID? I mean, how do you survive
Mm,
COVID? I mean, I survived COVID. I wanted to show people that you could survive COVID.
Yeah.
That may not have made it less scary, but it was not necessarily a death sentence, di ba? It was not
Yeah.
necessarily fatal. Kasi ako, I mean, I'm not as young as you guys, but I survived, di ba?
Yeah.
I have some comorbidities. I survived. Maybe I was lucky, but I
Yeah.
think it gave hope to some people. So, um, yeah. So just as one example, it's fresh, in my head, and you mentioned it. But there are a lot of
mm,
other,
mm.
there are a lot of other stories that people like to
Yeah.
watch. But that's the one that came to mind.
Yeah. I mean, sir, yung while we're on this topic of ako si 82828, no, parang I do remember when we researched about you, may isang netizen na nag-comment na sinaludo nila yung nurse na nag-alaga sa'yo.
Mm,
And the nurse mentioned in his interview na at least bago ako mamatay, nagkasilbi yung buhay ko.
mm.
I mean, that was amazing, sir. I guess yung
Grabe.
tanong ko lang, parang in your many encounters with probably a lot of people in your field of work, sir, anyone that you wanna like really throw back into and particularly that person, no, na hindi mo malimutan yung mga sinabi nila sa inyo in your field of work.
Well, marami ano. Well, una gusto kong ulitin yung pagpupugay dun sa frontliner na yon na
Exactly.
nag-aalaga sa akin. He spent the most time
Exactly,
with
sir.
me, and
Grabe yan.
luckily he was a fan of documentaries and he knew my work, and he was very open to being trained. I trained
I
him.
I know, right?
Yeah, I
Wow,
taught him.
really?
Oh, he didn't really, like most people, he wasn't using his iPhone video camera for broadcast, no. So I had to kind of teach him some basics. And
Yeah.
this is Gabriel Lazaro, no, and I'm still in touch with him. He's still my friend.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Grabe.
my story was not just about myself. It was about frontliners. Because there was also a lot of
Yes.
mystery
Yes.
and a lot of
Yeah.
curiosity about the frontliners. Kasi I mean, kami mga pasyente, I mean, I don't think what we were doing was heroic. Kasi biktima lang naman kami. We didn't choose to get infected, but though the frontliners, the ones who I met and they're still working today, they chose that line of work. No, I mean,
Yes.
there's a
Mhm.
lot of sacrifice, risk, danger. A lot of them have died in the line of duty. So we have to keep honoring and remembering them. No, and hopefully society will reward them properly. No, but there are a lot of other people I've met along the way, and that's partly why I do this job, because I meet people like that. No, I meet people who
Yeah.
inspire me. And can inspire others. And some of them are no longer with us in this world. No, I've been working that long. Many of the people I've interviewed, I've spent time with, are no longer with us. No, like I well, one person came to mind. He died during the pandemic. Was someone I had been documenting. Every so many years. No, I documented him several times. I did 3 documentaries about him. He was a dog
Yeah.
whisperer of Baseco. No,
Dog
he
whisperer.
yeah,
Oh.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he was a man who never went to school, or never learned how to read and write, but he had a talent for training dogs, no, and he thought he would teach his dogs, no. He taught his dogs tricks, and then they would do tricks as shows on the street, and that's how he made a living, no. He was not
Mm.
begging, no. He was entertaining, and people would donate money because they felt that they gave a good show, no. So I helped him find his son, no. I really got to know him, and I felt that he was a very wise and practical man, very simple, but the lesson that he gave me was, uh, all of us have some kind of potential, no, and it's really up to us to to do what we can with that potential. I
Ganda.
mean, he never had the opportunity to finish school, so no read, no write, but he knew how to train dogs, and he passed that on to his kids, and he made it a livelihood. It was a viable livelihood, no. So yun ang galing niya eh. Lahat naman tayo may
Dog
galing, di ba?
whisperer.
Yung
Yeah.
so When I first approached him and asked, I saw him on the street performing, no, at the LRT station. I used to ride a LRT every day to GMA, no, from Pasay. I used to live in Malate. When I asked permission from him to document him, sabi niya, pwede, but kailangan kang tumulong sa akin, no? And I said, well, paano? Kailangan kong tulong hanapin yung anak ko. His kid,
Wow.
was taken by, he was separated from his wife, no? So his wife had taken his small child, his small son, his young son, to
Yeah.
a province, and he lost touch, and he had no transportation, he had no way of searching for this kid, and so I agreed, and that became part of the story. The search for his son, and he found the son. We found the son. I helped him find his son,
Grabe.
and yeah, and very recently after he died, I went to see the son. No, the son, of course, is now in college, and a lot has changed in his life, but he got reunited with his father, because of what we did, because of our search for him, and he's grateful. So yon, I mean, that's someone who comes to mind that really kind of widen my view of humanity. No,
Yeah.
marami sa atin na mga nag-aral sa mga mahuhusay na eskwelahan, no? We often, even subconsciously, we have a condescending attitude about people who can't speak English well, or people who don't know how to read or write, and but I mean, people like that, si Mang Serio, no? I mean, may galing sila na wala sa iba. I mean, I'm better at than him in producing television, but he's better than me in training dogs. So, 'di ba? Sino mas magaling doon? 'Di ba? I mean, and that's what he taught me, no? Na, you don't look down on anyone, because you're not good at everything, 'di ba? And there's always going to be someone who's better at you. So, it's better not it's just better not to keep comparing yourself
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to others. Just compare yourself to yourself. Just compete with yourself and just be the best that you can be, 'di ba?
Sir Howie, actually, it's so cool that you mentioned that because I think I distinctly remember watching that program. I didn't even know it was like you helped create it, no. Pero I remember watching it because it was like one of the last programs before the GMA New Year, yung New Year's programs nila.
Oh yeah, you saw it recently. That's a replay.
That's a replay, yeah.
Yeah.
Replay na pala yun.
Yeah,
Replay
well,
na pala
kasi,
yun.
yeah, because we slowed down at the end of the year and there's not much
Oo.
advertising, so they replay.
Pero of all the documentaries, all the news programs that you've created, yun pa yung na mention mo. So super
Yeah.
coincidence. Pero
Mm.
Sir Howie, I guess yung key to the documentaries, the news stories that you make is yung storytelling, 'di ba? At the end of the day, what do you feel like is your kind of like your rules for storytelling? How do you kind of like tell your stories?
Well, it starts with uh choosing your stories, no. I don't do news, no. So not anymore. My stories really depend on me, and not necessarily what a politician just said, or the disasters that just happened. So my storytelling does not depend on those things, no. So, well, number one, in choosing a story, I have to be interested in it, because it's hard. It's hard to do long form. I do long form for TV. I do the longest nonfiction stories on TV. Most stories on TV are 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, mahaba na, no, 6 minutes. Pero yung ginagawa ko sometimes 30 minutes, no, na nonfiction, no. So you need to shoot a lot, and you need to do a lot of research to fill those 30 minutes, no. So you have to be interested in the topic. The topic has to be of some significance, no. It can't just be something interesting to you. It has to interest other people, or you think it interests other people. It has to be visual, because these stories are told in a visual medium.
Yeah.
It has to be doable, meaning, pasok sa budget, and hindi kami mamamatay sa paggawa, no? Safety is a big concern, no?
Yeah.
We're willing to take risks, but they have to be well calculated risks. And there has to be something new about it. You have to say something new about the topic. Many topics have been done already,
Yeah.
and many themes have already been done. But there's always something new. No, there's always a new angle, a fresh way of looking at it. So it all starts with that, and with me, there's always an experiential aspect of my stories. I experience something, um, whether it's the journey or some kind of hardship, or or trying to do something that the characters in the story are doing. I went to Dapitan last October to do a documentary on Rizal's exile in Dapitan in northern
Wow.
Mindanao. No,
Mm.
and I found out that Rizal accomplished a lot, but there was one thing that he wanted to do in Dapitan that he was not able to do, which was to ride a bicycle. No, he asked his
Mm.
family for a bicycle to commute. Not just for recreation, because
Yeah.
he had to take a long walk, no, from his farm to the town, because that's where he practiced medicine, no, in the town. So he wanted to do that faster, no, and I guess he didn't have a horse. Of course, there were no cars back then, so he asked his family for a bicycle, and his family never sent him one from Manila. I guess it was fairly unknown. It was unknown still in Mindanao, but it was bicycles were still fairly new in the world back then, but it was already in Luzon. Rizal had a cousin who was a champion cyclist, so he requested a bicycle from his family several times. It never arrived. So anyway, one of the things that I did in Dapitan in his memory and in his honor was to ride a bicycle, because I'm a cyclist. No, I bike every day. I bike this morning.
Wow.
So I've been biking since I was 7 years old, and I know what it feels like to yearn to bike, no, to be deprived of biking, and to want to bike. So alam ko yung naramdaman ni Rizal, and I wanted to experience that in Dapitan, because that's something that that he wanted to do, that he wasn't able to do, and it's one of those things that I could do. No, I mean, there are many things that Rizal could do that I cannot do, di ba? I mean, sa pagkahenyo niya, no. I mean, there's so many things he could do that few others could do, but certainly I know how to ride a bicycle. He knew how to ride a bicycle, but he was not able to ride one in Dapitan, and I was able to ride one. So, yon. So that was my experience. Apart from other things, no. So I was able to do that in the course of doing this documentary. So there's that aspect of my storytelling. No, I tried to
Yeah.
research enough, because if I didn't research Rizal and Dapitan, I would not have found out that he had yearned for a bicycle. He was longing for a
Yeah.
bicycle, and it
I'm
was
sure Sir Ambet could help.
to be honest, I don't think he mentioned that in any of his books. I don't know if Ambet. I
Oh.
don't know if Ambet. I only found out. I've read Ambet's books. No, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You've probably read his books as well. But I have not read. I've read most of his books on Rizal, or if not all. No, and I don't recall him writing about Rizal wanting a bicycle in the Pitan, and I did
Oh.
not even find out from him. I found out because I have a volume of letters of Rizal to his family, and his family to
Oh.
Rizal, yung raw letters, no. Um,
Yeah.
so I was reading through his letters in doing the research about Rizal and the Pitan. I was reading Rizal's letters in the Pitan to various people,
Wow.
including his family. And nandun, yung, mixed in with a lot of other things, no? Yung desire niya na magkaroon ng bisikleta sa Dapitan, and he reminded his family several times, no? He never got one. I know, because in one of his last letters home, he was still wishing that he had a bicycle. So,
Mm.
yon, it's just a small, parang footnote in history, no? But again, as I mentioned, I angle my stories. I choose my stories very often according to my own interest. And cycling is an interest, and it's to me it's important, 'di ba? Kasi kung maalala nyo, nung nag-lockdown, cycling was one of the few forms of transportation left aside from
Yeah.
walking. Kasi walang public transportation, hindi makalabas ng bahay.
Mm-mm.
Yung mga frontliners, yung mga dating nagji-jeep or nagta-tricycle or nagbubus papunta sa mga ospital, sa mga trabaho nila ay hindi na makasakay, no? So
Yeah.
they were riding bicycles. So naging
Yeah.
it's actually a life-saving form of transportation because of bicycles. Ang daming frontliners na nakapasok at siguro nakasagip ng buhay, no?
Yeah.
So yon. Just That's a long answer to your question, but there's actually
No
more I
worries.
can say, but I maybe
Yeah.
we should.
Nandito,
Yeah,
you took us all the way to the Pitan, sir. I think,
yeah.
we're very grateful for that one. Sir, I have a question, no? Parang, we also asked this similarly to historian Ambet Ocampo. Tinanong namin, Sir Ambet, can anyone do history? 'Di ba? Can anyone, hindi naman kami kasing, hindi naman namin alam yung mga places where to go, 'di ba? In similar sense, Sir Howie, can anyone do journalism similar to what you're doing? Because the way you talk about journalism, it feels like, what a life, di ba? Every day you go to a different place, you talk to a different person, di ba? Pero paano naman sa mga commoners na nakikinig ngayon, sir? Tingin mo may, is it a high barrier to entry or hindi naman? In terms of doing, journalism in their own right.
It depends on how you define it. As a profession, there are ways of entering. It's actually easier now kasi before,
Yeah.
uh, journalists were defined by their employment. No,
Mm.
if you work for a company that produces journalism, then and you're involved in news gathering. I mean, then only then can you be a journalist. No, and then or you're a freelancer who has clients that are mainstream media. No, but now you don't have to be employed by a large media company to be a journalist. Sa akin, the essential discipline of um, journalism is fact finding new facts, especially facts that others, especially people in power, want to hide, and the
Fact finding.
discipline of verification.
Mm.
That's what distinguishes journalists
Fact
from
finding.
ordinary people who
Verification.
use social media. Kasi
Yeah.
a lot of people who use social media, they'll just keep sharing, kung mga chismis, etc. No? That's one way of defining a journalist, no? But another way is kasi you're a fact gatherer, no? So you're not just gathering facts that pertain to national issues, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Ako, when I talk to students, I tell them, start where you are. You don't be like the professionals you see on TV who try to interview politicians, and they try to cover they cover dangerous things. If you're starting out, you're a student. Start at home. Tell the story of your family. Everyone, most of us, have homes that have family members that have elderly. We many of us have elderly or senior members of the family who have stories to tell. Record these stories,
Mm. Mm.
um, and be the family chronicler.
Mm.
That's how to start. Every family needs a chronicler. Hindi lang yung mag-uulit ng kwento, pero yung parang mag-hoard ng mga importanteng litrato, yung mga
Wow.
yung
Ah.
interesado sa mga lumang sulat,
Yeah.
yung may archive, yung magaling mag-store ng mga lumang yung mga memorabilia ng pamilya.
Mm-hmm.
Every family needs that, no? Yung magko-construct ng family tree, yung mag-update ng family tree. And if you have that mentality, kung you discover that you enjoy doing that. You enjoy hearing and recording and repeating the stories of your lola, your lolo, your parents, your the elders, other elders in your family, and you value these, and and then you try to verify, diba? Kasi people in your family, you know, i- they're not going to be lying to you most of the time, but sometimes their memory fails. So you're
Right.
also
Yeah.
engaged in the discipline of verification. Pwede mo sabihin, uy, daddy, totoo ba na na-kick out ka nung grade school? Sabi ni Lola. I mean, di ba? I mean, um, ganon. I mean, you try to get corroboration, more evidence about what you're learning. That's
Yeah.
already, in a way, that's already the beginnings of a journalistic career. If you discover that you enjoy doing that, then you might enjoy doing that the rest of your life. Gathering information about total strangers. But
Yeah.
start with your family. Kasi even if you don't become a journalist, being the family chronicler, being the family pack rat, no, the one who will save old letters and postcards and Christmas cards, and taking them out for your nephews or nieces or your children, 10 to 15, 20 years from now, because you kept them carefully in albums. Um, Importante yan eh. Kasi, kumbaga, you're keepers of treasure. Treasure yan eh,
Mm.
ng pamilya, no? So every family needs those. And if your families don't have one now, I mean, you guys can do it. I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's just takes interest, and it's
Yeah.
important. It's important.
Yeah. Sir Howie, misconception ba na itong industriya na to ay underpaid?
Um, in a way, it depends on what you're doing. Depende rin
Mm.
sa sipag mo.
Iba-iba rin, no? Yeah, iba-iba
It's
rin.
hard to
Yeah.
generalize, 'di ba? And then what's the meaning of underpaid, 'di ba? Ano bang ibig sabihin ng underpaid?
Siguro pag ikukumpara sa mga nasa corporate, you're making maybe half or maybe
Well,
three-fourths of what they make.
well, you have to understand that there are some journalists who do work for corporations. Who do so? Ano yung ibig sabihin ng
Oh.
corporate, 'di ba? I work. To
Mm.
be honest, I mean, it's I've never hidden the fact that I'm a journalist, but I also work for a corporation
Mm.
that produces journalism and
Yeah.
entertainment.
So nice.
No,
Mm.
ABS-CBN it was a big corporation.
Mm.
TV5. I have lots of friends who work for TV5. That's a corporation. So, hindi naman lahat ng journalists nagtatrabaho sa non-profit sector. Hindi naman lahat ay
That's a good ano.
freelancer. Yeah. So,
Mm.
um, now, are we underpaid compared to other kinds of jobs? I don't know. I don't. I decided early on that I was not going to be that interested in
Yeah.
what others were earning. Kasi you can be really
Hmm.
fixated by that, and it's either you can feel insecure or you can feel mayabang, right?
Yeah.
Right.
If you keep comparing what you're earning, or your
Yeah.
own lifestyle, or your own level of your assets
Yeah.
or whatever to other people, I find that to me, that's not mentally healthy, and it's
Yeah.
distracting, and it's
Yeah.
not and to me, it's not important. Kasi kung yun ang importante sa'yo, I mean, medyo makitid yung isip mo. I mean, to be honest, no? I mean, kung yun ang importante sa'yo, like how much others are earning compared to you, and you should be earning more, and although we all need to earn a living, but kung yun lang ang importante, then um
Mahirap.
yeah, I don't see that as a
Yeah.
formula for a happy life. No, I know lots of
Yeah.
people who are not earning a lot but are quite happy. But at the same time, I do acknowledge that you need to earn a certain level to survive.
Mhm.
to be able to um, pay for your family's health expenses and put food on the table and all of that and be able to go out once in a while. Pero I don't know too many journalists who went into journalism to lead a luxurious life. I mean, kung meron man, swerte lang sila. But
Mm.
wala akong kilalang colleague na pumasok sa journalism para magpayaman. So,
Yeah.
um, hindi ako, I'm not surrounded by people like that. No, I am surrounded by people who are motivated primarily by a sense of service. And I say that
Ganda.
sincerely.
Thank you, sir. Sabi nga ni Mang Seryo, 'di ba? Huwag mag-compare. Sorry, Matt, you were saying.
Sir Howie, I think I guess a quick question from me is like looking back at I guess your grade 5 self from all those years back and you wanting to be a journalist right now. Is there any piece of advice that you'd share to him and maybe aspiring journalists out there?
Uh, you know, kailangan handa ka eh. It's not easy, no? Uh, there are a lot of pitfalls. There are a lot of, I mean, we're among the most trolled professions on earth now.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Lalo ngayon,
yeah,
sir.
yeah. Oh,
Grabe.
so you have to deal with a lot of that. But ano eh, it's still one of the most important professions, in my
I
opinion.
agree.
I
Yeah.
mean, you can't imagine, di ba, not having journalists when there's a crisis, when people in power need to be made accountable, di ba? Who's gonna do that, right? Kaya kung nag-iisip ka na pumasok sa ganitong profesyon, ano, wag yung
Hmm.
tatanungin kung mahirap. Tanungin nyo lang kung importante.
Yeah.
Kasi if you're keep asking kung mahirap, and I often get asked that, mahirap ba maging journalist? That's the wrong question eh. Of course, but very few of us became journalists to lead an easy life. I mean, nagko-cover kami ng gera. Nagko-cover kami ng, when people are fleeing disasters, we're going towards the disaster.
Mm.
Not because we enjoy it, not because we like war but because it's important. It find learning about it, communicating about it, finding out about it so that others learn from it is important. Kaya wag tanungin kung mahirap, tanungin kung importante. If you if
Hmm.
you if you tell yourself that this line of work is important and you have the personality and the character that can do well in the conditions that we often experience, then do it, di ba? But you have to expect that it's going to be mahirap. It's going to be hard. So hindi yan ang tamang tanong eh. Ang tamang tanong ay importante ba?
Yeah. Parang narinig ko yung quote na yun, sir, kay Father Ferrios ba yun?
Yes.
Nakalimutan ko, sir, narinig ko yan sa Ateneo. Kay Father Ferrios nga, sir. Yes.
Yes.
I knew it. I heard that wonderful quote. Actually, that's it, Sir Howie. Thank you so much, no, for your time. We always usually ask our guests, what can corporate professionals learn from your career? But then your entire episode, no, was all about that, no, all about the vocation of verification, 'di ba? Wag mag-compare sa iba, right? Ang daming tidbits na pwedeng makuha sa episode ninyo, sir, no. I guess, sir, I mean, just to end, no, uh, how are you doing right now in terms of anything you're excited about that you wanna like talk about in the show? May parating bang panibagong documentary that will hit us and surprise us again like 2828?
Well, I'm working on something pero baka hindi matupad so I won't talk about it yet.
Ay, bakit? Bakit
Well,
naman? Yeah.
I may not. We're still trying to. we're still trying to arrange the schedules,
Mm.
and baka hindi nga matuloy kasi it will depend on the conditions of the sea. So yun na lang yung sabihin ko.
Yeah.
But what I've been preoccupied with, because I've been doing documentaries since yung nga the
Mhm.
1980s, di ba? So it's it's not like I'm getting tired of it. It's just that I've been talking about it for the last 20 years, but or so. But something that's newer on my plate right now is I teach by buy-in,
Ooh.
the ancient
Mm.
writing system of the Filipinos.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
so inaral ko yan because of a documentary I did on buy-in. So I ended up studying it, learning it, and then because people are interested, and then it got trendy. You see it you see it in so many places, diba? I see it in public
Yeah.
places, you see it on clothes, you see it it's on our money, it's on our passports, etc. But very few Filipinos can read and write it. Most Filipinos are
Yeah.
illiterate in
That's
our
true.
own writing
That's true.
system.
Mhm.
And as part of Rizal's vision to for people to learn it,
Mm.
no. So yon, that's something that
Yeah.
I've been doing. I've been
Yeah.
teaching it online, especially during the lockdown. No, I was teaching it on Zoom. So it's a different part of my brain. No, so it's helping keeping me nimble. Well,
Yeah.
I've actually downscaled in my
Mm.
documentary production.
Yeah.
Because I want I want to do other things. I want to continue, but I'm not at the same pace. It's I did one documentary a month for many years, no. So now
Wow.
I've cut it down to four a year na lang, 4 documentaries a year.
Yeah.
There are friends I know that do one documentary every 2 years, So, pero yon, medyo malaking production yung kanila. You do things for television, you
Yeah.
mas maiksi talaga yung mga time horizon.
Abangan namin sir yung baybayin documentary ninyo. I hope you're speaking. I'm not sure if that's even possible, no sir, but I think with you anything's possible, sir. Last question, sir. For you, do you think you've lived an off-beaten life? No? And for the people that are considering off-beaten tracks, do you have anything for them?
Uh Off beaten. Gosh, again, I don't really compare myself to others who may have taken a different path, no. I guess, kasi ang dami ko rin kilalang journalist eh. So I don't know if
Mm.
this is
Yeah.
Mhm.
off beaten.
Yeah.
I guess the niche I have, which is doing documentaries, is off beaten. But I'm also lucky that I was given opportunities to do it. Many people want to do documentaries. What many people want to have this gig of getting
Yeah.
paid to do it regularly. No,
Right.
Yeah.
so I feel very lucky. I don't want to give it up yet. In a way, that's off beaten because it's not common. Um, but but I guess to me it's part of this a larger subset of a life of service, a career of service. So marami naman careers and lives of service, but this is one of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to call it offbeat. I wish it were more mainstream, diba?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I see it. No, I see it. Maybe I have a I'm in my own echo chamber, but I meet a lot of people out there in the larger world, who are doing service to others, no, being men and women for others, no. So I see
Beautiful.
that a lot, no, and so I don't know if that's a narrow view of the world, but
Mm.
that's why I'm quite optimistic. I see a lot of goodness in the world. I see a lot of good in people. There are also bad people. I understand that, but I think there are more good people than bad people, and I think in the
Yeah.
end, good people win out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's it. Thank you, Sir Howie. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the show. Here's to the offbeaten path, everyone. Bye, guys.
So yeah, thank you for having me, guys.